We're live right now, and this gives us an opportunity to go on your Facebook pages and share. Uh, Let me see. I'm going to put this up here. What happens? That's there. All
I don't
right.
know if it's my computer or not, but you guys keep freezing.
Really?
It
It
might be
might be
yours.
yours.
You froze.
Yeah, she froze again. It is hers. Uh-oh. Okay. So hopefully she can still hear us. So yeah, I discovered I'm going to just have to get a new mouse because so all the music and everything is on the other computer, and there isn't any way for me to do anything about that. So we are going to at 5 o'clock um, start the intro. I was trying to even see if I could pull up the. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I will take everybody's face down, and then we'll just see the Three Black Moms logo, and then uh, because I don't have the opening, what I'm going to do is pull up Barbara, pull up your face. You'll say I'm Barbara, and then I'll pull up your face, and you'll say I'm Cheryl. I'll pull up my face, and I'll say I'm Naima. We're Three Black Moms, and today is our first live show, and we're going to be talking about how well do you know your child. Um, Now, what I was going to talk about was, things like if they were missing, would you know who to call? Do you really know what their interests are, their activities? Do you know their friends? Like to be a teenager, or do they still communicate with you, or do they, you know, seem kind of sullen and uh, seem like they ignore you when you're talking to them? If they're a young adult, do they still check in with you, or
Well, let's not get so far into the weeds with all of that for the intro because we want to bring Dr. Debbie in as soon as possible so she can
Okay,
help talk through these things.
okay,
I'll do a short intro on how well do you know your kid. Uh, do you know your do you know your kids' friends? Do you know what their parents' names are? And it depends. I mean, when they're little, you tend to know those things, and as they get older and go away, farther away to school or even high school, a lot of times you don't know their friends because you're not picking them up and dropping them off. So, and then you can come back in, and then you can introduce Dr. Debbie about the whole thing with getting to know your children you know and
and
how hormones really make a difference because when they're teenagers and they don't want to communicate.
yeah, because a lot of parents take from their children, stop talking to them,
Yes.
and they feel bad because they feel like, oh, what happened? They don't love me anymore, or whatever. Let me see. Let me make sure I got this graphic. I got the Three Black Moms graphic. Okay, got that. And let's see. And it's how well do you know your children, right? How well do you know your children?
You could probably pick up a mouse at the CVS even.
Yeah, yeah, that's possible. If I don't go to Microsoft, I probably could go to. I'll take it with me, so I'll just make sure I get the exact same kind. Okay, how well do you know your children? And then we have our information there. Okay, so yeah, we got that. All right, so that works. So yes, so yeah. Um, so I'm sorry we won't see our wonderful opening this time, but that's okay. That's okay. So you remember you did hear how I said we are going to do that. Barbara, I'm going to bring you up. You're going to say I'm Barbara. I'll bring up Cheryl. She's going to say I'm Cheryl, and bring me and you, and I'm going to say I'm Naima. And we're Three Black Moms. This is our first live show, And the topic for the day is how well do you know your children? And then, Cheryl, that's when you start talking.
Mhm.
And then you'll say, our guest today. But after you get done saying what you got to say, then you say, our guest today is Dr. Debbie Green.
No, I want you to introduce her.
Okay, all right. Okay, so after you get done what you have to say, then I'll introduce her.
Okay.
Right. So yes.
Is it okay if I wear my glasses?
If you need to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Usually I wear contacts, but
I gotta find my glasses. I got the broke ones, and I'm really looking all like broke person.
Oh, in that case, I'm gonna wear.
Yeah, because I don't want to all be on the screen doing this.
Well, that's why I'm not wearing. Yeah.
Look.
Oh yeah, you look like
Why don't
somebody.
you wear something with the googly eyes, Barbara? Good grief.
If I could find my Halloween stuff.
We don't have time.
You're a therapist, right? Is a therapist or counselor? What title is it? How is it therapist? Counselor? What should I call you? Therapist, counselor? What should I call you?
Oh, I'm a therapist
Therapist.
and a life coach.
Therapist and life coach. I got it.
Really life consultant. I don't use life coach.
Yeah, everybody calls themselves a life coach these days.
Yeah, I that's overrated.
Yeah,
it's
there's some people.
overused. I use life consultant.
There are some really messed up people that I know who talk about being life coaches, and I'm like, really?
Oh no!
My life would be like yours. Don't coach me. Never mind.
Remember the guy Jason Glass? I think that was his name. Who did the? He was one of those that was disgraced. Used to be a New York Times reporter. They found out he was faking all these stories, and then he had the nerve to say he was going to become a life coach. I says, please.
Follow my life and do not do what I did.
Yes, exactly. I says, yeah, be a cautionary tale.
Yeah, so what not to do. Okay, so let me see. I'm trying to make sure I have this on Facebook. I'm trying to pull this up on Facebook here. 3 Black Moms. I'll find it. 3 Black Moms. 3 Black Moms.
I tweet.
Tweet it out, all that. Oh, okay, yes, here we are. Okay, so now really Black. All right. Tweet it out, all that. Yeah, make sure you do all your tweets and shares and posts. All right. Tweet out, all that. Yeah, make sure you do all your tweets and shares. Posts.
Are we just doing this one show tonight?
I don't know if you wanted to do the other one. How well do your children know you?
Oh, okay. But that's not live, right?
Yeah, that would be taped.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted to do the other one. How well do your children know you?
Oh, okay. But that's not live, right?
Yeah, that would be. All right, we're ready. Okay, we're gonna take down our screen, and we'll be back at 5 Central, 6 Eastern. All right, and
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms, and this is our first live show. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about how well do you know your children?
You know, it's a funny question too, because when they're little, you know everything about them. And because you're dropping them off or picking them up, you know their school friends, you probably even know the parents. And then something strange happens as they get older. From middle school to high school and even in college, you start not knowing your kids' friends. They start to become monosyllabic, they don't answer questions, and you don't want to pry, but you kind of need to know. So, how well do you know your children, and how well should you know your children?
Well, there are a lot of changes that happen when they reach those tween and teen years. And we don't always realize that some of it is actually neurological. So, our guest today to give us some insight about what really happens in the minds of our children is our good friend. And of course, she is a therapist and a life consultant to help guide us through that process of motherhood, Dr. Debbie Green. Thank you for joining us today on Three Black Moms.
Oh, wonderful to be here with three Black moms. Absolutely, absolutely. It's amazing how children are become. We say we raise children, but actually we rear them. Okay, so which means that they come in these wonderful package bundles of love that grow into this beautiful person. Well, that's what we want to happen, don't we? Okay, so but the overall thing about this is I was listening to your show the other day and was trying to kind of get in there to add this and add that. So that's why I reached out to Naima. I said, I think they may want to know a little bit about this. Yeah,
Mm.
the biochemical side of adolescence, but more so as we go from child to adolescence to young adults, and it's all different processes, different mental processes as well as emotional processes. As I was telling Naima, when they are young, under the age of 10, they're pretty moldable. I mean, they should be. Of course, they have to go through the terrible twos. Once they get over the terrible twos, then between 3 and 10, they're very moldable. You can actually guide them, if you have what they call not a real strict, but a steady, consistent, repetitive, upbringing, as one would say. So once that's done, then we teach our children how to be codependent, by the way. Okay. So, which means we always tell them what to do, how to do it, how long to do it. And they go through this society learning codependency. How does that interrupt a child's mind? Oh, tremendously, because it's not actually taking the control of itself. So, to make a long story short, again, between birth and usually 10 years old, they're very moldable. Between 10 and 15, they're not even listening to you.
Mm.
They're in their own worlds. They're literally in their own worlds. Hormonal balance imbalances are constantly moving, everything is transforming from just a child to a young adult. So in those between years, between 10 and 15, they're in their own worlds virtually. They're in their virtual world. So you always wonder about, okay, little Bobby, didn't I tell you to go wash the dishes? Wash the dishes. And okay, mom. But he goes right back to what he's doing. Because mom didn't actually say wash the dishes at 3:15
Yes.
approximately. So if you don't give your child specific directives, they will think they have time. That's what they do because they're in their own worlds. So it's almost like you got to guide them, push them, guide them, push them, but also let them make those independent choices. Independent choices should be actually in grind, from the earliest ages of 5 years old. You should always let your child make an independent choice. I don't care if it's choosing what type of candy they want to eat, which don't feed them too much sugar, of course, but choosing food instead of, okay, here's your plate of food, sit to the table and eat it.
Mm.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
that's interesting. When Sarah was little, and my husband and I, we split our days because I worked nights and he worked days. And she would go outside and play with her friends. And one time he went out there and asked her what she wanted for dinner. And her friends were just shocked. Says, "Oh, she gets to choose." But we had always done that because sometimes he cooked, sometimes they went out. He used to pick her up from school, and they'd go to the 99 restaurant, and she'd do her homework, and and they'd eat there. So but we always thought, well, you just ate, like you said, you just ate what was in front of you, or you didn't eat. And but it just makes sense that she always had choices, or
Mm-hmm.
almost always had choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
And it,
sometimes I think it has to do with their personalities because even when my kids were young, Lorelai was very particular about what she wanted to wear. She would pick out her own clothes, and this was at the age of 2. I'm
mhm.
trying to remember if John, her twin brother, even cared that much. And I think Lavinia was the same way, very particular about her clothing, her look, all those little things. And I think it may have just been their personalities, and I wasn't going to fight with them over, oh, you're going to wear this or wear that. It was fine. They're little kids, they're clothed, they're warm. Go with it.
Oh,
So I have a
absolutely.
question then, because a lot of times children go through these phases where they want to have, purple hair or shave half their head and everything. And parents get upset because it's some way out self-expression. What is that? Is that hormonal? Is that, trying to express themselves? What is that when we're seeing behavior that we can't explain?
It's based on several factors. It is the personality, because you have to understand personality is not formed up until 18 years old. So if there is any type of choice or decision making that your child is doing, is based upon sensory organs. It's not based upon any personality, believe it or not. That means that if they see something that's pleasing to the eye, they choose it. If they like what it tastes, if they like what it tastes, they choose it. If they like what they hear it or don't hear it, So our sensory organs take precedent over, as we grow, what I'm saying? Like as early as, the baby in the womb, the sensory organs, the first thing that develops, the brain is developed up until actually, I think it's the fourth trimester. I mean, totally where it's not fully developed, but it's developed enough where they can sense, like putting thumbs in their mouth. How do you know they even have a thumb? They had to sense. The brain had to activate that sensory organ. So to kind of elaborate on that is when they choose something is based upon what society is showing them and also what they feel about themselves.
So that's another thing, the self-esteem thing. And like we see what happens, I don't know, maybe like middle school, I guess it's around puberty. And I don't know about boys, but I know girls, they go through that mean girl phase where it's like the cliquish thing. It's really important to belong or not belong. It's like self-esteem is really critical at that point. So is there a hormonal or some type of physiological reason why they're going through that phase of self-development and identity?
Yes, it is. The serotonin's in the brain. Actually, it depends. If the child ever experienced trauma, let me go back a little bit. If the child ever experienced any type of trauma, it's going to affect the way they feel about themselves and how they view the world. So, normally, if, let's say, for example, if a child experienced trauma in a domestic dispute or violence in their family or what have you, that child's brain chemistry literally changes, Naima,
Wow.
because is caused due to the pressure. Every cell holds a memory. Every cell, down to every atom, it holds a memory because we're 70% water. Water has memory. So every cell has a memory. So which means that, for example, uh, cases of PTSD is more what they call over exaggerated. I'll say it like that because I have my views on PTSD. But what I'm saying is it is a recollection of a memory. That memory then influences the way they think and also the way they feel. Because let's say you had a negative thought, I'm not worthy, no one loves me. Okay, you're gonna feel that. It's a feeling that goes along with that. So if they feel that on a regular basis, if they start uh, getting, feeling what they call self-defeat, start self-sabotaging and self-destruction, everything is time and frequency. So which means that they did it like let's say 4 times a day. Okay, that's 4 times a day times 7 days a week. So in other words, the brain is literally being trained to think and feel this way. You can tell them all day long, oh, I think I love you, I appreciate you, you're the wonderful, but if they're constantly feeling that way, then they're literally training themselves how to not accept that love. So we call that self-sabotage, which is pushing away, self-defeat, which is the thought patterns. And usually they'll come out and say, oh, no, you don't love me. Oh, yes, I do love you. So why would a person not receive love? Because they don't love themselves. So children, they do this again, experiencing some type of trauma in the home, where a person might have gotten in they might have said, oh, you're a bad child. And I always tell parents, never tell your child that they're bad.
Right.
They said, oh, you didn't understand something this time, didn't you? I
Mm.
saw that you did it again. So tell me why you did it this way and not the way I asked you to do it. You should help them to analyze their thought because the human brain in a child is not developed until it's actually 24 years old. So the frontal lobes and rational, they have no filter. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Right here, from here to here, rationale, reasoning, logic. Nah, I don't care if you wrote it down, you said it a million times, it still won't get there. You got to help them and assist them to get out of their feelings first so they can use their brain.
Well,
Doctor,
Dr. Green, I have a question. Do
Yes,
you
ma'am.
feel that a child that maybe has gone through this type of trauma or any type of woundedness, can that be changed? Say if a child is taken out of the home and put in a foster home or adopted, does the
Oh,
she froze.
change environments?
there we go. Oh, well, yeah, yeah. Will a change environments help a traumatized child? Yeah,
It
Or
will.
hurt.
or hurt. Yeah, yeah,
It
because sometimes
will to a certain degree because remember the biological parent, children have to have what they call nature nurture experiences. So if the biological parents are not there, there's still going to be a missing component.
Mm.
Even though you could take that child who never experienced anything, put it in another environment over a period of time with consistency and repetition, yes, you can change the way that child feels. However, there is a part as the child gets older, they're going to know that there's something missing, whether they want to or not, because that's the way it is.
Doctor, I have a question also because you had said something about, you know, when people tell their children that they're bad. Do you find in our community, the Black community, that we have to work a little bit more about the negativity that we have telling kids that they're bad? I remember there was a young woman who had a toddler, and he was very curious, and she kept saying, oh, he's just bad. I says, no, he's doing age appropriate things. He's actually quite smart, and he's curious, and this is what he's doing. Don't tell him that he's bad. But I find in our community, we, well, a lot of us grew up with that kind of feeling of, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're bad, and what can we as a community do to heal ourselves so that we don't keep revisiting that same trauma to our children?
Well, I always say love is the natural cure. And it's unfortunate that some parents is struggling with self-love in themselves, and they transfer this to their children. And by words, actions, and behavior. When I am counseling families, especially Black families, I often tell them that if you keep asking your child what's wrong, that's all they're going to focus on is what's wrong. So instead of asking them what's wrong, ask them what's right today. Even if you see them do something that is out of, the ordinary, or it's a repetitive action, because I don't call it. And when you reprimand with understanding. You don't reprimand with what they call the feeling part. Like, okay, most Black families attack your feelings. They don't try to help you understand anything. That either, because in our minds, because we were raised this way, believe it or not, this is all from our generation. According to the word of God, it says, spare the rod, spoil the child. So there's never an opportunity where we can just say, okay, is little Johnny, what makes him misunderstand what I'm trying to get him to understand? That's because if the words that come out and said, you're just bad, you don't never listen. And we hear that so many times. You never listen. I keep telling you over and over again, and you do just the
so
opposite.
hard-headed.
So, all right, our words are power, aren't they? Absolutely.
Mhm.
So you speaking over your child. You speaking over your child, and you telling them what to do, and it is going into that ear gate, activating in that sensory organ. And they say, okay, mom just thinks I'm bad. Ain't no use to me being good because I'm always a bad child.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to change our words. That's what I'm telling you. We have to change our words, our logo, our jargon to meet the need of our children's, mental capacities.
I have another question. Oh, and thank you to our sister Zelda. Says, wow, grand evening. Queen sisters, what a wonderful way of explaining the trauma still within us. Sounds like the issues in our tissues. And like you said, every cell has a memory.
It does.
Now, when I think about things like depression that might come from still holding on to childhood traumas, how can a parent tell if their child is going through a depression? Because sometimes we read it as they're just being sullen or they don't want to communicate, and then we get angry with them, maybe even punitive. But how can we be sensitive to what they're feeling and get them to talk about it if they're going through a severe depression because of something that's hurting them?
Well, you got to look for the symptoms, Naiva. The symptoms of depression are pretty much very similar to the ones also in the adults. Isolation, shutting down. Shutting down could be not talking, giving you very short sentences or one-word answers, as well as feeling powerless, hopelessness. The affect from here to here usually tells it is flat, it's emotionless. When they're talking to you, you don't see a lot of emotions in the face. Also, their eating habits will change, either eating too much or not eating at all. Sleeping habits will also change, either sleeping too much or not sleeping at all. Usually, it's if they're having panic attacks with anxiety, or usually not wanting to play with peers, not wanting to talk to family, just going inward, a lot of inward things. So a lot of times parents think, oh, that's right, she's up in her room. She's been in there all week. Okay, all right, so that's what she does. She comes home from school, goes straight to the room. Doesn't, barely eats, because guess what? They're not paying attention because they're working, everybody working in the house. They're going on, this is a latchkey kid, all right? So she goes straight to the room every day, not knowing that she's going through depression because she's a good chance she could be bullied at school.
Wow.
If she's bullied at school, that's going to make it worse. I really feel she's already depressed, but she's really feeling depressed, and that just adds to the depression. And most families don't realize it until they start self-harming. We call it cutting,
Mm-hmm.
self-mutilization. They start cutting, and now because of our society, psychological evaluations, they don't even see that as something of normal anymore, guys. Guess
Yeah.
what? You cannot be hospitalized if you're cutting yourself up. Oh,
Mm.
unless it's past the subcutaneous. Oh yeah.
Oh,
If I see some blood, oh that's right. I'll wait till it gets really worse, and then you could come to the hospital, and then you get
wow.
evaluated. Otherwise, oh no, you're
I
gonna
want
get
to
sent down.
also, yeah, I want to also ask, does this present differently depending on the gender of the child? Because I just noticed in males, they tend to present as anger
Hmm.
Yeah.
more. And I remember there was an Oprah a long time ago when they were talking about the teenage boys that would like, well, school shooters, those kind of things. But they said, well, if they can't cry tears, they cry bullets. And so
Ooh.
what should we, when we're talking about, because our subject is how well do you know your child, or your children, what should we be looking for in both boys and in girls, that, if are they angry more, or, what are we looking for? What should be, I mean, we should always be concerned. When should we, start really reaching out?
They need help, maybe.
Yes.
Right. Well, with
Um,
the male gender does hold hidden anger inside. And they, again, you got one or two. They're either going to be defiant or shut down. Defiant, ODD, opposition defiant disorder. When they are coming out, they may be hitting walls. They may be hitting their head.
ooh.
Okay. They may be battering one of their siblings. They may even go as high as to actually do homicidal ideation, start threatening people. I'm
Mm.
going to kill you. I'm going to hurt you in some kind of way, right? So families usually don't know what to do, and they usually bring them to get evaluated. Call the police. The police then takes them to get evaluated. So, but what happens prior to that, when your child starts to feel anger, it's a good chance that we go back to that nature nurture thing. Is he missing something? What's not there? It could be a black male child that does not have a father in the home. Is he missing his father and not knowing how to deal with that emotion? And then it's turning and it's getting distorted. You know what I'm saying? Because he feels, mom is not listening to me because she's working, she's going on and she's trying to make the best thing she's doing, but her and dad is no longer together. I'm angry. Nobody thought about me. Nobody didn't understand. I'm just a part of this, but nobody's listening to me. So all of that anger starts to create, I call the volcano effect. Underneath it's balling, balling, balling. And just one day it just erupts. There it is. Most people that have major depression, reoccurrent or even episodic, have suppressed feelings. Feelings are words they wanted to say and can't say them, or don't know how to say them, don't know how to express them. Because again, our children's frontal lobes are not fully developed, so they can't analyze, well, if I tell mom this, then what she's going to do. No, ain't no analyzing nothing. They're
Yeah.
just holding in. And the more they hold it in, is the stronger that energy becomes, and it's self-destructive.
So, is there a way to get such a person to speak up? Because usually you say, like you say, what's wrong? And they're nothing. And so, how do you get out of that cycle of non-communication when someone's holding anger?
As early as 3 or 4 years old, when they start saying the words, you need to say, I'm listening. I'm
Um,
listening. I don't care if you may not understand every word. That's all right. I'm listening and I'm here. Those words right there hold a lot of power. I'm listening and I'm here. I may not understand what you're going through, but I'm listening, I'm here. And they need to be told that very, very early. Don't wait until they're 12 and 13 years old to tell them that. It needs to be told early in life. Due to
You
the
know,
fact,
these kind of things are very apparent really early. I know that as a kindergarten teacher, one day one of my 5-year-olds came to school and said, my father said that he's going to kill my mother. He was telling everybody this. He says, I'm going to get him. And at 5 years old, and it was very frightening. You know, I talked to some of the other staff members to see if there could be some kind of parental meeting between us, because at the age of 5, you could see the disruption. I mean, it was coming out in his behavior all the time already, but when he just came to school with that explosive statement and his folks were not together, I said, you know, something really deep is going on that has to be addressed.
He was in a domestic violence home environment, ma'am. And
Yeah.
that's why he's repeating everything. Their children learn by osmosis. They repeat everything they hear. And the parents think that nobody's not listening. I don't care. You could be in 2 rooms over. You got little children that come and sit at the door. You could have the door closed. They want to know what's going on. They're always listening. They're very, very smart. I think we underestimate our children. We underestimate their ability to figure things out. And we just think, oh, that's not important, or they don't need to talk, or we want to hide it. No, that's the worst thing you could do is hide it from your children. Help them to understand it. If you and your husband or wife or family member, anybody is having disagreement, there should be, like some type of understanding or helping your child say, yes, me and daddy is having a dispute, but I love daddy. Even though we don't get along, I love him. And this has to be done so that me and daddy can get along to raise you. So we have to separate for a little while. That does not mean that you're not going to see him. Don't wait until after the divorce, years down the line, and then you will know why your child is shutting down and becoming suicidal. And then have to come to an inpatient and reoccurring. Because I'm going to tell you something about depression, if I can say this candidly. Once it starts, it'll never stop if you don't stop the cycle. Yes. It'll go all the way through adulthood. I've seen people that are 50 years old started depression. Listen, I never knew a time that I was not depressed.
Wow. Well, real quick, I know we got about a minute before we have to wrap up, but so many times people see angry young men shutting down, sullen, even threatening. What is a better response than calling the police and having it turn into a crime situation, or
getting them in the system?
Or getting them in the system. What's a better way to respond when we see a person in crisis and speaking violently?
I have to be truthful with it. It depends on the level, because you got mild, moderate, and severe. If it's severe, there's nothing you can do. You have to let a professional handle it. But if you are proactive and you start seeing the signs early, like I said, shutting down bits of anger, you know what I'm saying, and interruptions and ADLs of activity of daily living, now you need to start doing something. Don't wait until it becomes to the point where it becomes so volatile that person can't hear you. No matter how much you tell them that you love them or you hug them, they'll just push you away, because at that point, their minds is already, in a whole nother space and time. They're on autopilot. That's why I call it. They're not even making any conscious decisions anymore. Whatever damage has been done, that's what you're doing. You're facing it. And the only time you can do damage control is to be proactive.
Wow. Well, thanks so much. Well,
I need to have this again, because I'm telling you,
yes,
families need to know this. Naima, I'm pushing myself to write these books. I got to make time to write these books.
Critical information, definitely.
Psychiatrists and psychologists, they don't want to tell you the unadulterated truth, because they want to keep our children on medication. That's a whole other topic, y'all.
Oh, absolutely it is.
So, come back with that one. Well, we want to thank you all for joining us, and listen every Thursday to Dr. Debbie on Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie on the Female Solution Radio TV show every Thursday, 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. And you definitely want to listen in at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution.
It's been an honor.
It's been great. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We are 3 Black moms.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.